Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Grape Finance Weekly Update. I'm Felix, your host, and it is May 28th. We're going to jump into the stats right now. As we covered last week, Grape did depeg for about a period of 3 epochs after the Luna crash. Since then, we saw this nice slow grind to the upward side, meeting a little bit of resistance around the 120 level, and then the last week we've actually seen Grape pass its monthly high, which is this yellow line I've drawn here, right around 131. So this is a monthly high for Grape, which shows that Grape is in a really strong position. Liquidity in the pool is sitting at about 2.5 million, which is a really strong position. If I slide this over here, and we can see that Grape has a market cap of 3.4 million. Moving on to wine, we can see wine on a nice upwards trend that I've drawn in here, starting from the turnaround following the depeg down to about a dip of a low of about 75, and now we're back up to 250. So strong growth from wine. Exciting times for the wine maxis because we've seen this 230, this yellow line here flipped. It seems like it's turning into support as we continue along this upwards trend, and I would expect the next resistance maybe around 311 before possibly testing the wine all-time highs, in the high 300s. And we can see liquidity for wine up to about 640K. And if you remember from the previous updates, protocol-owned wine liquidity is up to around close to $200,000 worth of wine and MIM in this pool now. So the protocol is able to stabilize the price of wine nicely by owning that liquidity. And we can also see just the market cap growing even as circulation continues to grow. The next piece of stats I want to discuss is the winery collection. I feel like I say this every week. Last week we were at a floor price of 4.5. Now, as you can see, we're closing on a floor price of 10. And I think that's basically just people, getting hype about the airdrops, using the airdrop calculator to estimate their rewards. We did just get one this week, but we can see that there's still more grape and wine in the reward pool. So never a bad time to pick yourself up a winery NFT, especially if you don't have one. All right, the next piece of statistics I want to discuss is the TVL of the protocol. As you can see, we just topped 9 million, which is really exciting. After that Luna crash, doomsday for crypto last week, it feels like a long time ago now, we dipped into the 4 millions, right, in TVL. So we basically doubled up in the last week or two of recovery. And it just shows great investment, great buy-in from the community, and the Grape community continuing to grow. And now a couple of pieces of alpha on our incoming updates. We do have a new token being added to the ecosystem as part of lending and borrowing. So you will be able to post Grape and wine, and most likely Grape Wine LP or Grape MIM LP rather as collateral, but there will also be a new token specific to the lending and borrowing platform to incentivize that system. So look out for that as the ecosystem continues to grow. We've also mentioned the upcoming play to earn Grape game that's coming out with its own specific NFT collection. So that will potentially come with some boosts for existing winery collection holders. There's some rumors around that. We haven't announced anything specific yet, but keep your eyes out for that as the new NFT collection and game rolls out. We also have a little bit of alpha for anyone who's in the Kryptonaires AMA this week. You probably heard a little more detail on this, but there is a still unannounced play to earn game coming out on the Avalanche ecosystem developed by one of our partners, where Grape and wine will have a utility within the game. So we're going to add that within our own game, obviously, where you can use Grape and wine to buy in-game updates and items, but this partner game will also have that same utility for Grape and wine. So you guys heard about the Swap School partnership that's coming up. That's going to be a DEX. We also have this partnership with this new upcoming game that we can share with you guys. So we can't give you too many details because, the developers themselves have not announced the game yet, but definitely exciting times as we see Grape and wine kind of proliferate through the Avalanche ecosystem. And I'm going to jump over to Discord for this next announcement because I'm happy to share that Modfather Steve, a longtime mod in the Grape Discord, has been added to the core team. He's going to be working on partnerships like the one I just discussed with other play-to-earn games, with DEXs, with other DeFi protocols on Avalanche, and potentially beyond the chain. So Steve will be working with Eric, and personally, I'm thrilled to welcome him to the core team. We're obviously all excited to have him. You can see the hype in the Grape Discord for him too. So stop by, say hi to Steve, say hi to the rest of the team, get some strategies. It's a great community. we had some interesting talk about the Avalanche ecosystem, the health of the ecosystem as a whole, and also the health of the MIM token specifically. So I'm not going to go over MIM too much because we did discuss it in last week's AMA, but essentially MIM is an over collateralized, decentralized stablecoin, right? So there's no real threat of a bank run in our eyes because of the over collateralized element. That means that these tokens you see listed here, Wrapped Ethereum, USDC, UrnFi, and Sushi Coin, can all be liquidated as necessary if any of the people, borrowing MIM against their collateral, if the health ratio gets off, if the value of these assets gets too low, they will just liquidate these assets to protect the peg of MIM. So that's why we have faith in MIM, long term. Obviously, the market does value USDC and USDT a little higher than MIM, and that's just because it's more convenient to exchange those for cash because those are run by centralized treasuries like Circle in the case of USDC. But despite that slight price discrepancy, as I said, we really don't have any fear of the peg significantly depegging on MIM. So we have confidence in MIM. As far as the Avalanche ecosystem as a whole, our dev made a great point that if you go over here and look at the market cap of Avalanche, right, $6.6 billion. Let's compare it to Solana, say, at $14.6 billion, right? So Solana is over double. We go over to the TVL of all chains on DeFi Llama. We can see that Avalanche is down here in fourth, ahead of Solana, with almost 150% of the TVL of Solana. So that's basically telling us that, market cap slash TVL, Solana's at 5, Ethereum's at 3.8, BSC is at 6.2. Avax is right there with Tron as being, one of the most undervalued layer 1 networks in terms of TVL, also similar to Matic. And we've seen, technically the fundamentals of Avax, in our opinion, are extremely solid. They've released subnets. We used to see 100 Gwei plus gas. Now we're seeing gas, pretty locked in around 25 with the DeFi Kingdom subnet, with the Krabata subnet. And obviously, we're hype on the projects that are coming out in the ecosystem. We love the Platypus DEX. We love Trader Joe as a DEX. We're excited to be working with Swapsicle. And, Grape, not to toot our own horn, but we're kind of a big deal in the Avalanche ecosystem as it continues to grow. So this is a great place for us. There's a lot of great builders working on the chain, and we're here to stay. Next, we have, I guess, just kind of a fun question for the team, which is, do you guys hold nodes, and what do you do with your node rewards? I'm happy to share my node page. I have 10 Grape nodes, and actually, next time I claim from my Grape nodes, you can see I've claimed 490 already, 17 sitting here. So I'll go over my full ROI, and I'll be, purely in the profit with these Grape nodes at 1.7% of my initial per day. So I'll probably make a little video where I claim and officially go over my initial, fully ROI, and I'll share maybe a little bit more in depth my strategy personally for how I use nodes. But yeah, basically the team has nodes and we love them. You can see I've been feeding my rewards into the Grape MIM LP on Magic to auto compound, and that's doing nicely at 0.8% per day. If Grape's super high, I'll sell half of it from MIM. If Grape's low, I'll add my own fresh MIM from those times when I sold Grape before. So it's a nice way to just, feed your rewards back into other sections of the protocol. And then finally, we have an interesting question about what happens when wine emission ends, right? So wine is capped at a total supply of 45,000. We're about 20,000, almost halfway there. And essentially, it's no secret that we give out wine rewards to people who stake LP, right? It's a way of bootstrapping liquidity for the Grape token. You see the same thing on Curve. You see the same thing on Trader Joe. It's just a classic model to reward the community for adding LP and basically strengthening the token, right? With more liquidity, you can do a lot more on the platform, and that's our goal. As we build lending and borrowing, as we build these other services, it's important to have a strong liquidity for the Grape token. So we're really happy with how that's gone so far. We have 7 months more of wine rewards before rewards end, but it's an interesting thing to think about that even if we were not rewarding people with wine for holding LP, the Grape MIM LP currently is over 10% APR just from trading fees on Trader Joe. So that's a cool example of how, we reward the community with wine for building the LP. And as Grape gets more popular, as the Grape circulation expands, Grape actually starts to generate its own revenue from external sources like trading fees, like lending and borrowing on the platform that we're going to introduce. So it's exciting times for Grape as we sort of develop these new revenue streams that are going to make it so we're really not relying on wine emissions to get people involved in the protocol, right? Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to give you one last peek at this beautiful wind uptrend here. My name is Felix, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Until next week, Grape out.